Just gonna get this mic sorted out in the center. Yeah, I suppose that's right there, eh? Yeah, there we go. Cool. Think we're good. Make that big. 175. Sweet. Sup, shredders? My name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP review live streams. $5 song requests, song reviews today that we'll be doing is a thing today. Hopefully you're having a good day so far. If you're watching this, if you're unfamiliar with the concept of this, we can go through Ko-fi via link in the description and get songs reviewed for just $5. And if we switch over to here, and we've got everything set up on the screen here, we'll go to the fishies just so that we have something to watch. So this is $5 song requests or song reviews via Ko-fi. I'm just loading that link up now. And then we've opened up the queue, so if you're interested in that, you can check it out. Awesome. So I suppose while I'm here, is there anything to update with the channel stuff? I don't necessarily think so. I think that the webcam lighting's sorted now. I feel like the webcam's handled at this point. I think that the first SP Googles video should be going out this weekend, the one I want to do for JHL, so that'll be cool. And that'll go out on Sunday. Got all the Patreon videos done for the month, which was good as well. Welcome to October, by the way. It is October now, so that's cool. I don't actually really know what else to talk about. I feel like that's a good start. I also got YouTube Premium. Right. If I go to YouTube, I got YouTube Premium. So now I don't have to worry about ads. You can't see that, but I absolutely do have YouTube Premium now, which is great. So there'll no longer be any ads in live streams. You gotta shake these guys. They're boss coffees. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, they're very good. They're basically my everyday drink. I buy them for like live streams and other sort of like work sessions and stuff like that. They do pretty well. But yeah, Google video this Sunday. Patreon videos have been done. If you are an SP patron, just so you know, with these SP Googles videos, there's a strong chance, well, they'll be ad free if they go on Patreon. There'll probably be ads on the video on YouTube, but they'll be ad free on Patreon. And also, there's a strong chance that they'll have corrected subtitles, but I'll see how I go with the first one. But if the first one has subtitles, I'm pretty sure I can do the rest. And they're not going to be like super long videos or anything like that. Although, again, I'll do like a seasonal video where there's like, you know what I mean? Like, it'll just be like all the videos from like the first 10 weeks in one. And then we can continue next year, I suppose, after the first 10 or whatever. Or the first 12. So, yeah. Usually we check out music news at the start of these live streams. Music news. Britney Spears opens up about scary fire incident earlier this year. It happens. Okay. David, I mean, I'm sorry to hear that they went through the fire, of course. That's terrible, but it's very kind of blunt, isn't it? Gavin Creel, Tony Award winner and Broadway star, dies at 48, which is a shame. Charlie D'Amelio to make Broadway debut. And Juliet. Sup, Jacob? How you doing? Welcome to the live stream. Hopefully you're well. Hopefully having a good start to October. It might not even be October where you are, to be fair. Some parts of the world are literally 24 hours behind or 23 hours behind New Zealand. Hello. Welcome to the live stream. Cardi B reveals the very specific symptom that made her realize she was pregnant. Okay. Looking ahead to release a release calendar of upcoming albums in 2024. Yeah, we can have a look through this. You got any albums you're looking forward to, Jacob? Apparently Coldplay has an album coming out soon. Toby Keith as well. We can make these. No, we can't make it a bit bigger because the way that it works, the website doesn't work properly. That's fine. That's okay. That's fine. Toby Keith album coming out Christmas to Christmas in October. Well, I guess it's better to get in early than not at all, I suppose. There's next week there's F Sheen, Gorilla, Glorilla, Jelly Roll, Apparently Jelly Roll is quite good. Rufus Du Sol, The Offspring. So if you're into The Offspring, apparently they have an album going out as well. Joe Jonas for 18th, as well as Shawn Mendes with their self-titled album, Shawn. Andrea Bocelli, as well as Halsey and Kelsey Ballerini with Patterns. So there's a few albums coming out this week, and that's kind of cool. I like that. I think it's great that people are releasing albums in this day and age. It gives, credence to the fact that albums are still important in this day and age. The last thing you need is to have a situation where you are afraid to release albums because you're concerned that people won't appreciate that long form factor content. When in reality, I think a lot of people can, if you can kind of get them alone with the music, they appreciate that music. Like, as long as they're not distracted by whatever, in extreme situations, anyways. The Weeknd, Playboy Cardi declare they're timeless. Okay. This one's interesting. I wonder if this website will allow me to zoom in. No, it kind of does. I don't know if you guys can see this. Yeah. They're making a lot of really interesting decisions about the way that they format this website. It'd be great if you could just make this bigger without making the images bigger. Like, I understand enough about web design to understand what they're going for there. They're obviously trying to fit different size screens with different formats. Because when you zoom in, it equivocates to that. But at the same time, it's like, is it possible for us to not just have things be like bigger when you zoom on them? I don't know though. I'm still learning about the ways of the world. But either way, it's good. I suppose. I mean, no, Drake did not send not. Why do I say it's good? They need to actually They need to actually just they need to actually just allow you to zoom in on stuff if there's information on the screen. Apparently we have a request from Konstantin Derekas. We're gonna check out this track out. Hopefully everyone watching this, including Jacob, as well as Konstantin, hopefully you're all having a great day so far. And taking care of yourselves. It is the spooky month. The spooky month at the moment. Although that's obviously relative. Depending on like whether you're like into Halloween or not. But yeah, const. We go. Thanks for the request. There's one in the queue from Constantine. Let's do it. Let's go, man. Here is an AI-inspired track that has been completely redone using human session musicians, adding violin, piano, and sax to mix it up a bit. This song is in memory of the Bhopal. So apparently this specific track, if I understand correctly, is in memory of the Bhopal disaster 40 years ago this December. So we're going to listen through that track now. Let's do it. Let's go. Oh, that's gorgeous. That's sitar work. With other string instruments, I'm not as familiar with the names of them. I think that violin melody on top's beautiful though, great solo section. Great adjustment of the drum groove as well. mean, as an instrumental, it works because of all the different lead layers and the changes in textures because of different instruments taking the forefront. The saxophone piano are great compliments here as well. The vocal harmonies are beautiful. By the way, they harmonize with the strings here. Great use of trills stuff here as well with the flutes. No, it's actually really impressive. This was Bopal from Konstantin Rekas, Const 71. It's a really mature piece. Apparently, again, this track is in memory of the Bhopal disaster 40 years ago this December. With the Bhopal disaster being... It was a gas tragedy, the Bhopal gas tragedy was a chemical accident on the night of 2nd and 3rd December 1984 at the Union Carbide India Limited Pesticide Plant in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh, India. That's terrible. So it's a very sad song. And I think that makes a lot of sense. You don't need vocals to communicate a story if the music is able to do so. When we did have the singer come in, it was more of an alternate lead line, a lead melody on top there that was beautiful by itself, but also coalesced really neatly with the strings, for example, when they harmonized with those. And they just had a great sort of... There was a great sense of equilibrium in the piece there. I think that it was tasteful to have that. I feel like you didn't need much more context than that. Solid vocal technique there, no complaints whatsoever about the way we approach things there. Very happy with it. So yeah, the vocals were well handled there. I think that the expression there was appropriate. The track had a wide variety of different instruments in there. I think they were more sort of traditional, I say this haphazardly, like more traditional instruments from India, like the sitar, but also the boom boom. I don't know what that instrument is. I recognize it, but I'm not quite sure the name of it. And I think that it's effective because it sort of lets the listener go, hey, this music might be from this part of the world. But then you've also got these more sort of contemporary drum, bass, and piano chops there with flutes and saxophones that each perform different functionalities that also amalgamate really neatly. You have sitar and bansuri flute. Thank you. I appreciate the bansuri flute there. It's good to know. So the bansuri flute sounded gorgeous in its lead sections and was a really mature, elegant lead instrument. It flooded through the mix there, almost like a bird flying through the sky. And it was really colorful and explored the scales really neatly, as did the saxophone with its signature timbre. Like the saxophone coming a bit later on there. We had similar approaches, like there weren't massively different styles of soloing there. We tried to have a sort of a connection to what was going on with the rest of the arrangement and the rhythms and like the drum bass parts there, with the keys typically being 8 or 16ths there is more of sort of a sub layer, even though there's a lot going on left and rights. But I appreciate the sound of I like that the flutes and the saxophones trade off each other as lead instruments. I really appreciate it as well that we had sort of these really sort of solid drum grooves there, going between like sort of more eighth notes and some interesting sort of fill transitions with the snares and stuff like that. But the 16th note snares, it just that there was a great sort of shuffle forward with them, but not like in like a really energetic one. It was almost just like it was to help you groove along to it, but it was never too over the top or like energetic. It wasn't trying to be a happy upbeat track because that wouldn't have made sense within the context of the piece. I just thought the drums were really well played there. They pocketed, but also showed off a little bit, and I think there was a great balance there. The bass line coming in at the start there was great and full in the low range there. Again, it was more conservative than a lot of the other elements, but it still worked quite well there, reinforcing the low end. And there was also guitar in there as well. You know, the guitar specifically sort of rolling with bar chords for the most part, not being too sort of in your face. But then finally you had the strings, and the strings, when they weren't harmonizing with other elements, and trying to sort of like measure up with the vocals and stuff like that, were more of a support in the low to mid ranges there with the cellos or whatever. Just kind of really kind of a sense of sadness, but also elegance emotionally with it. So I think the combination of all these different instruments creates a theme where we're trying to express ourselves from different perspectives with the different instruments, but we are still sort of mourning the loss of what occurred there. There is a minor feel throughout the whole track there. It incorporates instruments from the part of the world where the disaster occurred, which kind of helps you to sort of anchor it to that. And the theme itself makes sense ultimately. It doesn't overcomplicate despite the complexity and technicality of those solo sections, and just more lets you sort of feel that ambiance without being too much. Studio recording, mixing, and mastering, as Jacob said, is very clean production. Really sort of stoked with the way everything was leveled in the mix and rearranged under headphones. And the stereo field, some of the instruments like went further out to the side, almost like to show themselves out a little bit, which was an interesting touch. So the bit of panning with the automation there, automation with the panning there, should I say. There was dynamic range to this. It wasn't the same loudness all the time. The recordings of the instruments in general were very clean. Nothing was overproduced. And nice and low without pumping. So bus compression limiting was handled. It's a very positive review of this track. Thank you, Const. 71 Constantine Drekas for putting through Bopal. Good job. So that was the review of that track there. Let's continue. What else do we have? Do we have another track? We have one from Dinahay. Thank you, Dinahay. Welcome to the live stream, by the way, Dinahay. I hope you're well. Constant71 says, I went for an Indian instruments fused with Western instruments. Good. I think it was a smart move. I feel like if you hadn't tried to illustrate a connection with the types of instruments you used there, it might have been more difficult to understand what was going on there. But we didn't have that issue. So thank you for that, Constantine. I appreciate it. The next track is from Dinner Hay today. And what does Dinner Hay today? You're welcome. Thanks for your request. There we go. What do we have? The Sun and Moon. We have, the Sun and Moon Tokyo version, apparently, from Dinner Hay. So that should be good to check out. We're going to do that now. After Bopal. Is this an acoustic version? No, nope. Sun and Moon Tokyo version from Shiina Ringo and Hikaru Utada. Really intense panning of that organ on the left, but that's okay. I feel like this is better balanced than the other track I heard. I think YouTube is just really loud. I mean, the double bass is phenomenal here. Crazy pad hit lifted up. Gorgeous. That was wonderful. So that was from Shiina Ringo and Hikaru Utada. This track titled "The Sun and Moon." Apparently, now I think we reviewed this at the last the last song review live stream, and I think I spoke about it, kind of maybe inferring like a relation to like their careers or something like that. Just purely with the audio experience, I can only assume from like the Sun and Moon title, it could be about the way that the Sun and Moon interact with one another. I'm not quite sure. Either way, there aren't lyrics available for this track yet. I think that this song, I mean, to be fair, it was released about 4 months ago now, so I would assume there would be lyrics on Spotify if there were going to be lyrics. But I thought that it's an interesting track anyways. Like, as same comments as per the last. I know they're different. This is the TYO album version. The mix itself, the vocals were really well handled here. Both Shinaringo and Hikaru Utada can sing really well. They have distinct vocal timbres. You can tell who was who within the mix easily. They sound fantastic and endearing, whether they're separate or harmonizing with each other. There's some really interesting sort of like thirds or octaves that were going on a bit later on. And it's full of feel and expression in a way that's not too over the top. You could tell that they're very sort of like, they're really focused and intent on what they are trying to express. And I feel like the language barrier here is the one thing that's sort of, maybe making it more difficult for me to understand what's going on. But nonetheless, I still appreciate the vocal performance for what it is. They're both really experienced singers who clearly know what they're doing. And they were great to listen to. The track at 4 minutes 22. It's an interesting song. This was actually released along the original London version back in 2019. Thank you, Blue Dinner Box. I appreciate that. It's good to know that kind of information. Predominantly because I hear this. The thing that strikes me is how easy it was to sort of hear the individual elements within this. I mean, like, there was clearly double bass. There was clearly drums. There were clearly like an organ or something along those lines there. There was occasional guitar parts as well. I was kind of 50-50 on the guitar. Clearly, like, the guitar wasn't necessarily the focal point the entire time. Because there was occasional sort of staccato drums there, working with some bars or opens or extended chords there. So the guitar is more of a kind of like an occasional thing. Maybe being more legato or whole note in the choruses. But to be fair, I think they formed a similar function to what like the pad was doing in that interlude section a bit later on, or in the chorus parts. They just naturally elevate them a sense of gravitas because of the fizziness of it, if that makes sense. I think that there's these little sort of sub-touches you can get with these secondary elements that really make a track just seem a bit more intriguing at that later stage there to shake things up and make it more exciting. But the fundamental elements were the organs. You had like the keys, the bass, and drums. And so the double bass there was explorative. The double bass sound had a tremendous tone to it, thick and full-bodied, and had a bit of grit to it. And it sounded like a jazz bass, and they could clearly play and explore the root notes plus some of the modes and triads associated with those chords within the progression, which was awesome. Get the great sense of pace and rhythm with the drum kit, with lots of different cymbal, kick, and snare ideas. Like, we had sort of like a swing groove to it. It was more of a jazzy kind of piece, and we rocked between like the cymbals and the hi-hats and the rides and stuff and crashes. But it was more kind of supporting what the vocals were doing without overplaying on the kit there. It's not like we had like a dedicated drum solo or anything like that. But I feel like we did what we needed to with the kit in order to help the double bass and the keys and everything else taking time. Because actually, no, I take that back. There was a bit more going on with the drums. Like, there was dedicated sort of like snare and tom fills there, that the transitions, and there was some interesting 16th note patterns as well there, and adjustments and offbeats and stuff. There was actually a bit more. A lot of it was ghost notes, like little hits there that were in line with the main groove. But there was a sense of relative consistency, I suppose, in part because we were trying not to sort of oversaturate with parts of the kit. But yeah, no, the keys there. The way they were panned there, you could just so easily hear what was going on with the right hand, the melodies there, and it was weird hearing the higher side of it on the left side, because usually you hear the higher notes on the right side of the stereo field. But I suppose here we really wanted those to be easily heard and articulate, and we had that here. We explored not only major minor scales, but also like the extensions and a bit of chromaticism going on there to modulate between chords. And there was some also in the chord progressions, there were some parallel majors and minors occasionally, and some unusual chords there just to sort of spice things up and to suit what the vocals were going on to modulate. But ultimately, it was a really competent key performance there. Lots of range with the different note choices and stuff like that, and differences in rhythm. And we took whatever space we could to sort of make the most out of that without overplaying. The theme overall, it's had a sense of complexity and sophistication to it, in part because of the style of music it was, but also because we were trying to sort of like, how to describe it? But also because of the extensions within the chord progressions, mitigating the obviousness of the major and minor chords, the chromatics, adding a sense of wistfulness and kind of like a lack of anchoring a specific feel, so to speak. And of course, just the tone of it, the audio product, the studio engineer, studio production, audio engineering, etc. The way things were panned in the mix, the way things were handled in that regard was very impressive. I like the panning of the instruments in the mix. I just want to like quickly just have one more listen through it. Oh, there was an electric guitar on the right. I knew there was something on the right side. So there was actually an electric guitar on the right side there that played occasional lead lines there. So that was the point of separation there. I knew the keys were on the left, but the guitar was on the right. Cool. And that's just fantastic use of step panning, like to separate those other leads onto the sides to make room for the vocals in the center, especially with two singers, is a masterstroke. There was dynamic range to this. Things were well leveled in the mix. There were no issues with resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum. Music literally did surround you in the headphones there, especially the tight panning of the keys, the organs or whatever, with the keys on the left and the lead guitar on the right. That played occasional sort of like triads or modulations or like little kind of bendy, slidey bits there. That didn't want to interfere with the mains, and it was nice enough without pumping, so the bus compression limiting was handled. I liked this version better. It wasn't as loud. There was more headroom to this. But thank you, Dinahe, for that request of this track from an actor named Shina Ringo, as well as Hikaru Utada, titled The Sun and Moon Tokyo version. I'm aware that I'm talking a lot. It's just because there's like a lot to say about these tracks. I am trying to keep it relatively minimalist. But yeah, definitely, Jacob, it's pleasant for sure. If the tracks weren't as exciting or interesting, I would probably say less. But these first two have been phenomenal. Hey, it's My Chemical Romance. Let's do it, Jacob. Let's go. I like My Chemical Romance, eh? Oh, right. Of course. Yeah, absolutely. I feel you on that. Hopefully you're not having any personal experience with it at the moment. Hopefully everything's okay on your end. Cancer's a bitch, man. Hopefully everything is okay on everyone's end with that stuff. You don't want to have to be coping with that. That shit's tough. That shit's tough. But yeah, this is off of the Black Parade album, which makes sense. It does. Yeah, we're going to listen through Cancer from My Chemical Romance. Thank you, Jacob, for the request. Beautiful key parts here.
Turn away if you could get me a drink of water, 'cause my lips are chapped and faded. Call my Aunt Marie. Help her gather all my things and bury me in all my favorite colors. My sisters and my brothers still. I will not kiss you, 'cause the hardest part of this is leaving you. Now turn away, 'cause I'm awful just to see, 'cause all my hair's abandoned on my body, all my agony. Know that I will never marry, baby, I'm just soggy from the chemo, but counting down the days to go, it just ain't living.
Great vocal fry, man.
Just hope you know that if you say goodbye today, I'd ask you to be true, 'cause the hardest part of this is leaving you. 'Cause the hardest part of this
This is incredibly sad. What's up, Kaiwin? What's up, Kaiwin? How you doing? Man, that's terrible. That is a really sad song. I'm sorry to hear that, Constantine. That sucks. I'm really sorry to hear that. Yeah, the song hits hard. It's brutal. It's an incredibly well written song. It's very, yeah, Jab. So basically, you can go through the link in the description to submit a track review. You can do that if you want, if you're interested in that. Yeah, but we are taking requests. If the queue on, if you click through the way to tell if we're taking requests is if you go to link and it says you can't make a request. It's just we're not able to make a request. And if there's usually like a little message I've pinned up here on the chat. And if that says that we're not taking requests, then it means we're not taking requests. But if there's nothing here, and if the queue is open, you can place a request. That's good. Thank you, Kai Warren, for that one. I appreciate that. This track, again, it's talking about the perspective of someone who has cancer and is, terminal, and they're talking about their own experience and realizing they would never get married. And just all this horrible, terrible shit that someone has to go through in that position. And it's so raw. It's so raw. I mean, I don't know what Gerard's experience with it would have been, but it's so believable that you almost assume the guy himself had cancer. I'm not sure either way, but the way it's sung is like, it's like almost conversational, but it's also, it's just the vocal technique is so, they're clearly also singing. The vocal fry is phenomenal. The melodies are enrapturing. It's just brutal. You really do feel for them. And it's very convincing, authentic performance there. And we harmonize, we perform well with just the piano and the vocals, or the guitars, bass, drums, and everything, and strings come in later on. Either way, I mean, I also want to note, I think that Gerard, the vocalist, is double tracking their vocals, and if it sounds like it's phasing, it's because they are so in tune with themselves that, if I could be wrong here, it could be another effect, but they're so in tune with themselves that it sounds like they're exactly the same. And that's really trippy. It's really well handled. But aside from the vocals and the story being incredibly meaningful, it's a song where, I mean, again, the piano at the start is almost as a ballad. It's a 2.5-minute ballad. And you have the movement through this track, which is practically through composed. It's their sort of awareness and understanding of what's going on there. It's heartwarming in its authenticity. And the piano there, again, it's just them with a piano. It's really well played. Like, you don't just have the triads of the chords, you also have some movement with the right hand. You explore the scale shapes really neatly. And it's really full sounding. Like, you don't need more instruments than that. But then they start bringing in the guitar, the bass, and the drums in a way that's very sort of like respectful and gentle. There is a great sort of respect the bass has for the root notes, the chord progressions and scales there. They don't have any weird chromatics there, unless it's in certain parts where they want a bit of drama there, maybe like the transitional chord between one to another there, and then they resolve that. Because this isn't meant to be an unpleasant track to listen to necessarily. There's already so much heaviness coming from the vocal performance and the lyrics. So I feel like the bass player here, they come in and they're definitely noticeable, but they try to sort of fade into the ether. The drums sticking with like a quarter note, eighth note groove for the most part, and 2 and 1 and 2. Yeah, the eighth note groove there, and there's it builds an intensity as the strings come in later on in that mid range, kind of permeating a sense of like resonance and harmony with the piano parts, which continue. And whenever you have strings in a piece, clearly it sounds, there's the emotive expression is just a bit more intense there. Legato feel of it just sounds intrinsically sad, partly because of the minor sort of like focus on it. But there's also a lot of the brightness from the piano that almost suggests that there's like almost a sense of clarity from it, which is kind of like bittersweet about the life they've had or the amount of time they have, like they're suddenly aware of it. And you have, again, movement between chords, occasional quicknesses, and adjustments of the chord progressions, and it's just invariably really positive in the sense that it's really well written. Not that the track is positive. It's a really well written piece of music, and they clearly understand the fundamentals of music theory and composition, and it's a tight performance as well, and it makes the most of 2.5 minutes. And there's variation in chord progressions throughout there. It never gets too heavy with the actual feel of the instruments and the intensity of the textures and the way they integrate. But what it does really well is it almost gives a neutral platform for Gerard to sort of speak their truth on, and it's really pretty. It just sounds pretty, even with like some of the sort of distorted elements. We kind of like, we'll go just quickly to the end there. Is there even guitar in this actually? That's very, very gentle guitar. It might even be like, yeah, it's very gentle if it is. It's predominantly bass, drums, piano, and vocals for a lot of this with the strings. I think having distorted guitar might have added a bit too much edge to this, so I appreciate the position there, even though it's irrelevant or like apparent in a lot of other music from My Chemical Romance. But yeah, it definitely hits like a train, and it resolves in a way where it goes to a major, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a weird kind of feeling to it, almost like they've accepted their fate and they've come to terms, made peace with it. I'm not sure. I could be wrong with that. But the studio recording, mixing and mastering was beautiful, really well produced, great clarity to the vocals, piano, guitar, bass, strings, and drums in the track. Nothing seems overproduced. There's dynamic range to the piece. It's not the same loudness all the time. Music surrounds you in the headphones there, as nice without pumping. Commercial grade. Thank you to Jacob for putting this track through for My Chemical Romance titled Cancer there. I didn't miss one. Thank you, Jab. I appreciate it. I do make some of my own music. I'm working on an album at the moment. Thank you. Yeah, I've been doing this for a little while. Yeah, I appreciate that. But thank you. That was Jacob's track for today. Yeah, I think that yeah, really interesting effect on the vocals actually at that part, but yeah. The next track is from Kaiwern, though. Jacob says, oh shit. Jacob says, cancer is horrible. My dad left due to cancer when I was 7, so this song really hits me, but we know the hardest part of this is my dad knowing he's leaving us. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you lost Jacob. That's brutal, man. That sucks. I can't imagine what that would have been like. That would have been brutal, dude. I'm really sorry if you lost. Very emotional vocals. He sounded like he's really going through the grief, not in a pretty way. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I absolutely feel you on that, Jacob. It's, yeah. I can't imagine there's an elegant way of going through this kind of situation, but yeah, it's just really powerful music, you know? Thank you, Kaiwern, for your request. We're gonna check out what you put through now. Okay, Off and On. Apparently this is a new track here. So this is from Kaiwern, titled Off and On. Let's do it. Apparently this is an original, if I'm not mistaken.
These days have got me thinking, are you who I know? Are you who
Good job for having subtitles, by the way, Kaiwern. I really appreciate that. It's a smart move. There are people who need them.
I want to passionately be the one as I try to give a hint, but it seems so hit and miss. So why don't you tell me what is on your mind? What is going on?
Great build here with the drums.
I mean, it's just off and on. So off and on. You don't mean it, but you do.
Interesting shift to the swing groove, actually, man.
You told me you were busy with what I don't know. Am I who you want to passionately be the one as I try to search for clues? But it painted me all blue. So just kindly tell me what is on your mind. What is going on?
I like that overdub. They were kind of shouting it out. I think that's smart. Kind of a.
So off and on, so off and on. You don't feel it, but you do. You want to hang on, but you don't. You're just so off and on, so off and on. You said you need me, but you don't. But then you stop me. Oh, hold on. What's going on? What's going on? Indecisive and a treason. This futile tug of war.
Vocoder? Interesting use there.
I mean, it's just off and on. So off and on. You don't mean it, but you do. I want to end it, but you don't. So what do you want? What do you need? I say let's not waste our time. Just let me go. Let me breathe. There is no parentheses. Love goes on, life goes on. You'll regret that you missed out on somebody like me.
Cool. No, that was well handled. So that was Kaiwan with their track Off and On. What do I think the track is about? I think it's about someone who is going through a situation where they are off and on with this person and they just want to basically either have a stable situation with them or they don't want to have a situation with them at all. I think a lot of people can probably relate to have been in similar situations to that. I feel like there'd be an audience for this. I like the vocals that were in this. I thought we sung well. The melodies that we chose were yeah, yep, definitely. I do. Yeah, yep, absolutely. Yep, I really enjoyed the sound of the vocals and the melodies I chose here. It was great to have like the A B side between the verses and the choruses, and you got the feeling of what they were talking about in the track, the frustrations in the verse, and then like back to kind of bouncy. It's like, oh, I'm so sick of this roller coaster ride. One also, the other thing I really appreciated was at one part we kind of cried out in addition to what was going on with the main line there at the end of a track. Like we were just openly frustrated with it, which I thought was quite authentic. And we also had ba 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 going on the sides of the stereo field in the chorus sections, which were cool. Which just kind of made that seem like a more sort of like engaging experience because you kind of had things going on back and forth between the parts of the stereo field. So that was cool. The track itself at 3 minutes 57, I feel like is well structured. You had a lot of different instruments involved in this track. There were verses and choruses and like an interlude section as well there. There wasn't any filler within it. The transitions were seamless. We had like trumpets in the choruses, which made sense for the more sort of bombastic kind of upbeat part of the song there. It was like a swing groove, like a happy-go-lucky part on the drum kit, whereas before that would have been sort of straight 4/4, more rigid with the hi-hats, kicks, and snares. There were some interesting snare transitions as well with the chord note accent for a lot of this, which I think was effective because it just kind of felt like a track you could sort of dance to. So the percussion was well handled there. the bass line typically rolling with the chords and the progressions. They're not necessarily going too far. Like there was a synth bass at one point later on a little bit, which was more sort of like kind of a fuzzy sort of foundation for everything else and maybe communicated the frustration we were feeling. I mean, like, there were all these different little instruments, and there were some main ones and sub ones. Like, the little keys, the sparkly keys, and those quieter kind of verse sections with, they added a sense of wonderment, almost like we're figuring stuff out, with gentle pads as well that kind of slowly build up the mood going into that shift into the swing there. And when I said seamless transitions, I should note that it's also fair to say that the movement into the swing parts were like a little bit sudden, which may seem like a little bit like of a contradiction, but it's more like it's smooth in the sense that I appreciate how clean it was going into that change, if that makes sense at all. I don't know how to describe it. Because of the fact that it was designed to be like that and it made sense for the track, I thought it was quite smooth. But like it was kind of a little bit like also like, well, we're here now. This is it, which kind of reflects what we're discussing with the back and forth. And just overall the theme, with all these other instruments combined, it basically makes you feel as if it's a track where we're trying not to be too kind of like down in the dumps about the situation we're in. We're trying to communicate that like we're gently frustrated with it. It's not too kind of in your face. There aren't any, like there's some interesting sort of like harmonized lead guitar solos ascending near the end there and some like fizzy textures in the bass synths, but there's nothing in here that is screaming aggression or frustration or any super negative feelings about it. We're still trying to kind of keep it poppy and catchy, but I think the vocals do kind of insinuate what's going on there. And it's like little subtle touches that invoke that. The theme overall is kind of more sort of like traditional triads, major and minor focuses there with occasional chromatics, but very little. We're trying to keep it safe with the melodies and the harmonies there, with the drum grooves typically sort of like stimulating the change and feel between like the more sort of stagnant and bouncy parts. And when the drums aren't there, you can sort of like sit in the ether and kind of accept it, or when there's just the kicks there. Ultimately, I feel like it's a track where a lot of attention to detail was put in to try and make it entertaining the whole way throughout, and I appreciate the work put into it. The studio production was tight as well. The music surrounded you in the headphones was nicely leveled. No weird resonant frequencies. There was dynamic range to it, nice and loud. Yep, good job. Good job, Kaiwa, and it's a solid track, man. And again, the vocoder as well, like the different ways of putting the vocals forward in different synths just made that more interesting as well. So yeah, that was cool. It was a great track. I feel like I covered everything there that I wanted to talk about there. I'd have to go, like, you'd need multiple listens to get all the different sub instruments and layers in there. There was a lot to absorb, but I think that's a smart move there. It gives it makes it re-listenable. You can put it on repeat and potentially get a different experience each time. But anyways, thank you, Kaiwan, for that. We have Jab. There's a lot of frustrations that needed to be released to written a song. Well, hopefully you got those frustrations out. Oh yeah, Jab next. What has Jab got for us today? Jab, jab, jab. Let's go, let's do it. This is on SoundCloud. Let's go, Jab. Sold my soul. It's very somber in it with the guitars and drums. I'm definitely hearing the alternative rock grunge element here. Yeah, great vocal fry here. That was really well produced. That was Jab with their track Sold My Soul. I want to just quickly listen through that first part again really quickly.
So where do we go? I wanna feel.
So, like, I'm getting some of the words through clearly. Sold My Soul, where do we go? Not all the words came through clearly, there was one, but a lot of them. I'm wondering if this track is about feeling like we've maybe lost our sense of purpose or something like that, and we're trying to figure out our direction and where to go with our lives. It could also be in relation to other people as well. I'm not quite sure, but intrinsically, I want to have a few more listens to the track just to get another go at listening through it, but I also feel like it's kind of like a one-time per listen thing. I definitely was listening to the track. I was actually really impressed. You mentioned Jab in the chat that you wrote the song last night. It's a really good effort. Like, the way that the guitar, bass, and drums come together, this is fantastic. And the style that we have vocally is fantastic. And I remember reviewing Nirvana's sort of like songs a little while back, and when I remember back, I didn't always get the words too clearly from Kurt either. Sometimes it was more about the feel of the vocals and the style and the emotive sort of nature of it, rather than necessarily getting like everything through crystal clear. It's more like the kind of it's expressing yourself. Maybe sometimes, yeah, it's good. It's good. So I think that the vocal technique itself was solid. I liked the note choices and the melodies within the track. I think that the actual melodies had a great presence within the mix. We had some interesting harmonies as well in our higher range going in the falsetto, which was cool. And I could definitely hear the Alice in Chains inspiration there for sure, man. I just thought there was a lot of love put into making the short form track matter from like a vocal perspective. The feel, the kind of dusty, gritty feel of the guitars in this track are poignant, and they have a sadness to them, an inherent sadness, almost like we're lost. That's what the guitar communicates to me, and I appreciate that because it's just so much to sort of tell the person within the first few seconds. And I feel like this day and age, you need to do that. You need to get your point across really quickly so that you kind of get people into that zone where it's like, okay, this is the experience we're having. Because if you don't, sometimes people can just get distracted. So we handled that well, especially getting the 2-minute 5-piece like this, where a lot of it was more sort of instrumental stuff, but the vocals were also a nice layer on top. You have the guitars with these interesting strummed and arpeggiated bits there with a kind of a filtered tone there. A really slow beat on the drums there with cymbals and kicks and an interesting snare tone. It sounded like it had a bit of like kind of phasing going on or something like that, but I still appreciate the cut of it in the mix. I like the kind of the grittiness of the drum tone in the mix in general. It definitely isn't overproduced, but it's not amateur either. It's like a song where it knows the kind of aesthetic it's wanting to go for and doesn't sort of sugarcoat it. And I think the combination of the slower drums with the more sort of like minimal, like kind of like intensity, like energetically with the percussion, with the way things are strummed with the guitars, with the vocal style and the bass line underneath sort of reinforcing the root notes of those progressions at that tempo. It's just really effective. So I've got absolutely no complaints about the way that the song was written. I think we might have needed more range with the theme if we'd had a longer track, but part of having a shorter song is that you can have a theme like this and you can sort of have that sort of moment last for a couple of minutes and it doesn't denigrate the overall experience. It's an effective track, which sounds like we're really trying to work through stuff, and you don't necessarily get the feeling that we find resolution at the end, but that would be an awesome way to seg into other parts of like an album, for example, to maybe see if we do get through that. So it's really promising. And the studio recording, mixing, and mastering, just to finish off, is tight. Again, it's not overproduced. It's not super pristine and clean and sterile or whatever. It's a track where we wanted to get our tone out with our vocals. We wanted to sort of layer it with the guitars in a way that mirrored the feeling we had through that. And the bass and drums went along with that. And it's nicely niched within the frequency spectrum and stereo field. The music surrounds you in the headphones. There's no weird resonant frequencies. It's actually quite a clean mix, despite the fact that there's a bit of kind of like dustiness to it. And it sounds like kind of like an old school kind of vintage aesthetic. That's a reminiscent of a lot of stuff from the early 90s. But yeah, it's nice and loud without pumping. And yeah, there's dynamic range to it. And it's a really good first impression. If I haven't listened to your music before, I've reviewed a lot of musicians. This isn't me humble bragging, legitimately. Sometimes I forget if I've reviewed musicians' work before. There's been like 1,000 reviews I've done on through the stuff alone. Way over 1,000 reviews at this point. But thank you for sending this through. I appreciate it, JB. And please keep up the good work. And you're welcome. There's no point in reviewing music unless you're honest, because otherwise you're just bullshitting people. And I can't fathom a universe or a reality where I would like do that, if that makes sense. I just feel like that would just be kind of gross. You know, I understand to get that bread mentality, but I think it's also important to be honest with people and to just communicate. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Because I feel like if I had heard this kind of music before, I've reviewed less of this kind of stuff, so I feel like I would remember it more often. I've heard a few musicians who make the kind of grungy sort of stuff, but just in case, you know. Yeah, it is. Honestly, what's the point if you're not honest, right? So thank you for that, JB. I appreciate it. That was Sold My Soul from Jab, with the art here on the screen in case you want to watch it. It's interesting art as well. Yeah, I mean, like, I try to avoid telling people how to be, I try to avoid telling people how to be creative. But that ironically makes my job as a reviewer a lot easier because I just look at it technically. That can be difficult for some people because they're like, well, but if my music is great, then why aren't I... By the way, sup Shinyu-da. Welcome to the live stream. I forgot to say hello. Hello, Shinyu-da. Hopefully you're having a great today and everything's going well for you. But yeah, I find that's the point where it gets difficult, is when you know your stuff's good and you don't know how to break out of it. Simply being good to getting an audience that is behind that. That's the part that the musician, I feel, often, yeah. So you just got to talk about the technical stuff. I think as a reviewer, that's the best part forward. But anyways, we've got a track from Leo. This is Sup Leo, by the way. Welcome to the live stream. Never Cross Paths, Hua Chenyu Mars Concert Beijing. Here is the link. Thank you. So we're going to be listening to some. I don't think this is original. I think this is someone else. This is a Hua Chenyu track. Let's do it. Let's go. Actually, I'm going to be right back. I'm just going to get some water because my throat is kind of scuffed. It's Oh man, that's so much better. Oh man. You've really got to take care of your voice when you do like voice work. Clearly, you know, I really need to do vocal warm-ups when I do this stuff. You can hurt your throat if you don't take care of yourself. I need to remember to do vocal warm-ups. And you got to drink water though. Always stay hydrated. But anyways, this is from Leo. This is Never Cross Paths from Hua Chenyu. And sup, Le Pianist. How's it going? Gotta admit, it is nice not to have ads, right?
却不知能去哪儿。它下落不明的出发，好像一场隐形的烟火，在风平浪静里坍塌，用一句一句算了吧。
I mean, it's gorgeous with the way the guitars and the vocals work together here. Well, not literally here, but you know what I mean. Things are layered quite neatly. It was tear away from the distorted guitars here. Back into these keys. And the bass in a higher range. Beautiful with the lead lines on top though. And that was our 5 minutes with it. Because we have the 5-minute rule with these tracks. I just want to go down the bottom. The conversation between Hua's consciousness and Hua's being. Just because I'm listening to this. And I was kind of understanding it like a tiny bit. Like I understand, I suppose, like it's about two people not, crossing paths, and You get the feeling that scurrying into the wind is almost like it's commenting on how the other person just sort of vanishes into thin air. So I understand when we talk about the being in the consciousness, maybe we're talking about the consciousness being the thing that scurries into the wind as if it was never like a real thing in the first place. Like it became so real for them having that sort of like inner conflict that they just disappear the next moment when things change. I'm not quite sure. But either way, it's an interesting story. That the rows of children that we saw in the interlude section confused me a little bit, but I kind of understand it a little bit. Like I kind of get it. I don't know how close I am, but either way, I think that the vocal performance was really it was stellar. We suited it whether we had the quieter key synth, higher range bass parts there with and like the builds going into the choruses, or when we had the full on distorted kind of more active drum kits, the distorted guitars, the rhythm guitars on the sides there with the lower chords, the bass notes in the lower range there, and the pianos, the full bore accompaniment. We handled ourselves. We had great um, awareness of how we needed to sing in certain parts. And I enjoyed the way that things were handled in that regard. I think that, um, we showed really stellar vocal technique there. The actual performance was incredibly charismatic and believable, and we had great range, and we're always present in the mix, and showed an aware, like we expressed ourselves well, and great stage presence, and ultimately just a really satisfying performance to watch there. I feel like the only way you could have improved it was by actually understanding the language like natively, and as I don't, I have a secondary experience, but I nonetheless still appreciated myself. So Hua Chenyu, really enjoyed hearing them sing, and the story is intriguing. The track itself at 5.5 minutes. Now we've listened to the first 5 minutes or so. I think that it's a track that is quite well written. You have a lot of different instruments involved in this track, which features instrumental parts as well as verses and choruses, and like there was even maybe an interlude section later on. But like or even like a middle eight or something like that. But the thing is, despite the contemporary structure of it, there is so much going on with the different guitar, key, bass, drum, synth parts there that is really enthralling. You have what effectively amounts to an A and B side between the lighter, more sort of pretty cheerier parts there that are still sad, but they've got like these kind of glowing lead guitar arpeggios, these cute little key melodies on one side, the synth pads kind of warming things up, the bass in that higher range, they're trying to be as bright as that, almost like we're trying to reach up to the sky to get to that consciousness, wherever that went. And or it could be the consciousness's point of view, I'm not sure. But nothing's too low in those verse sections. It sort of hovers and flies around and sort of it's very pretty. And then you get into the heaviness, the reality that comes from that chorus section with those distorted guitars coming in with a rougher tone there. You don't have those pretty arpeggios anymore. You have those kind of gritty power chords there that just kind of force. You have the bass notes back in that low and kind of really sort of trying to sort of weigh you down a little bit. The drums, they push forward and they're propellant and they're heavy and they're effective and they've got a great sort of like sort of body to them. And again, that AB is very effective. It's satisfying, go backwards and forwards. And we don't just have the same amount of instruments in each section each time. We vary. Like I think the last time of it before that last chorus section had just the guitar arpeggio there, which was one thing that kind of made it a bit more low key before going back up again. And that hit even harder the next time. The drums were tremendous. There was so much stuff going on from the 16th, 32nd hi-hat grooves to the variation of the snare patterns there. They're complicated to the 8th quarters and 16th grooves across the entire kit in various moments. But we also knew when to not have the drums, which was also equally effective because that means that we're aware of just having things float and not needing to have something pushing us forward. So that was really smart. There was dynamic range to the drums as well. The bass player knew how to be in the right range at the right time. The guitarists as well. It was really well composed, and we understood how to establish different ambiances for different points. And there was absolutely no complaints on my end about how things were put forward. The theme overall does sound like there's a sense of tension, like we're trying to reach up for something we can't get to. There is a sense it's pretty because of the key lines and the way we arpeggiate on the right hand and the way they kind of lie over top. It's just that there's also a sense of anguish because of some of those heavier sections in the chorus parts and the way that we kind of cry out at some points there. It's very raw for Hua Chenyu. You can tell there's some conflict going on there. But we don't overcomplicate the arrangement in regards to chord progressions or whatever. It's still very accessible and palatable. The performance is tight without a note out of place, and it's just the studio recording, mixing, and mastering, which is really well handled here. Really sort of easy to sort of take everything in. Things are nicely dispersed around the stereo field and the frequency spectrum. The great leveling of stuff, and in the mix, there's no issues there. No weird resonant frequencies. Vocals are well handled without being overproduced. A bit of reverb and compression, but not too much more than that. And it's nice now without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting is handled. And that was my review of this track from Hua Chenyu from the Mars concert Beijing. And the 8th of September, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you to Le Pianiste for submitting it. You're welcome. And it's fantastic that he arranged and composed and arranged it. I'm really impressed with that. It's a great effort on their part. I would have loved, this is one thing I'll say, I would have loved to have seen like even a shot of the other instruments playing their parts in this. I understand it's a contentious subject because it's more fashionable in certain situations to just have the vocalist in the center without the band with them. But I think that holy shit. Oh shit. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So there's quite a few tracks that have come through. Wow, okay. Holy shit. Thank you. How many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. We're closing the queue. Thanks for your requests. I've closed the queue. I'll do the remaining requests from Leo and Jeb before I finish today. Yeah. Yeah, so we're closing the queue now. I've just realized there's like 6 requests that have come through. So I'm flattered. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate that, but I have to close the queue now. I have a meeting with a recording client in like just over an hour's time, and I don't want to rush through the songs that you've put through, so I'm definitely closing the queue. But thank you for your requests. I greatly appreciate it. I was not expecting it to be as busy today. But thank you, Le Pianiste, for your track there. We've got Shin Da now. Thank you, Shin Da. What do we have today? This is from Tom Chang, apparently. So that'll be good. Tom Chang. Let's go. Let's do it. What do we have? The song title, Through Deep Hell. I know this one, As High as the Sky. I reviewed this, I think, in my Discog video that I did on Zhang Yuxing, but I'm keen to hear more of it, so that'll be good. Yeah. I love this kind of music, man. It's really good. I love the airplane foley at the start, by the way. I didn't comment on it, but I did. Great fill there with the drums. Very used to that arpeggiator in the background with the synth pads. That's right, just have like crowd vocals with the synth keys. I mean, it just sounds like and again, the plain foley, it's phenomenal, dude. And that really classy fade out as well. That was fantastic. So that was from Tong Chang, Zhang Yuxing, a track titled As High as the Sky. So what I think this track is about, I think it's about a sense of joy. And I get it, like high as the sky, almost maybe aiming to the sky with your ambitions or something like that. We also have airplane foley, so it could literally be about being in an airplane, I'm not sure, but either way. I just want to say that as a this isn't a language I necessarily understand. Well, I don't understand it. But when you have the plain foley, it kind of helps you to kind of understand what's going on there, even if you don't know the language. And I feel like that makes it more accessible. So I appreciate that. That's really cool. I think that's a smart way of using like foley or a different sound other than a music within a song. And it's a more sort of like a captivating experience, especially when it's like referenced at the start, but then you kind of have it at the midway just to kind of remind people of that. So it is a transitory device. The vocals from Zhang Yuxing or Tom Chang are tremendous as well. Really sort of comfortable in their vocal range. Great presence within the track. Good, nice control of the head and chest voice there. No complaints at all about the way that we sung. Very sort of like fragrant in the mix. Great range of different melodies depending on the position. We had like crowd vocals as well, or backing vocals. It's just a more of a pad-like kind of harmony there in the background in certain sections there when the main line's being spoken. But that also harmonized together later on as well as just a general sense of development. So that was really smart. And yeah, absolutely. The vocals is just really well handled in general. Tom Chang is a phenomenal singer. And I'd say that like he's got a lot of albums and it's worth listening through all of them if you get the chance. As I have done that. I can say I've done that. So, yeah, absolutely. Jab, the contrast in music genres here is great. Yeah, I understand that. I think a lot of people do it. I think, to be fair, a lot of people that do those reviews also like those genres. For me, I feel like the best thing I could have done in my entire life as a musician is open myself up to music like this. It really does expand your palette as a musician and as a human, just getting access to all this different music. It's really good, really positive. The track itself at 4 minutes, nearly 5, is really well fleshed out. You have verses and choruses structurally. You have the foley at the start. It's kind of bringing you into the mood. And in a very interesting sort of unusual way that is effective because of its uniqueness. And then you have the majority of the track, aside of the solo sections, well, including the solo sections, behind the vocals being made up of guitars, keys, bass, and drums. And all of those instruments are fairly easy to sort of follow along to. You're not over-egging the pudding, so to speak. And I think that the way that we were able to have the rhythm guitars is like kind of a gallop, dun, 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 kind of a sense of moving forward towards a brighter future from going, as high as the sky. It kind of makes you feel like you're going somewhere really positive. The lead guitar parts that we had in there, including in like the chorus as well as the dedicated solo sections in certain parts there, were uplifting, and some of them were more sort of glorious bends, others were more sort of quicker, more technical, frenetic parts there that were still kind of very sort of sophisticated and pretty sounding and never sort of like changed the vibe in a way which was uncomfortable. I think that there were major or minor shifts within this sort of to show a sense of conflict or contrast between maybe self-doubts in the minor parts and then like remembering that things can be okay in the major elements there. I feel like the guitar parts adjust to suit those moods there. The keys are a main sort of like movement forward for that. I appreciate the keys aren't too much in your face through it. They do have a nice glow in that higher range there with the sparkle of some of the right hand bits, but they also reinforce the bass in the lower mid range in a way that makes sense for the bass guitar as well. The bass is nice and thick with this one. Not in the way where it's sort of repugnant or in your face, but in a way where it sits nicely underneath the key and guitar parts and reinforces the root notes. The drum parts in here, there's some interesting sort of tom snare fills, especially with the 8th and 16th grooves there. And we can clearly play the kit. It's a situation where we wanted to sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, have a faster tempo with a chord note accent. Almost you can kind of nod your head and dance to it. It's very uplifting and positive. And it's a tight percussive performance as well. We don't always have drums. We go halftime occasionally, but like a lot of the time it is that sort of normal time part, and it's just really kind of groovy. And it's pockets, but in a way where it uplifts the experience, because a lot of complexity again is from like some of the vocal parts, but in those lead guitars as well. It's a well-measured track with a theme that again signals that things are going to be all right and things are going to improve with the major leanings and some of those more sort of like intense anthemic parts with the chord choices there, as well as the soaring lead guitar elements. And it's, again, I think it's a believable track there without a note out of place and no filler. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering is well handled. There's no weird resonant frequencies. Things are nicely leveled in the mix and and things surround you in the stereo field as well. Like the plane goes from like one side to the other. There's panning of that automation. I like the sound design there. There's dynamic range, nice and loud without pumping. Bus compression limiting is handled. It's a really well handled performance there. It's a classic. And thank you to Chenyu for putting this track forward, this request of an act named Tom Chang, titled As High as the Sky. And apparently the pianist loves Tom Chang too. His voice is so beautiful. It is. It really is. It's a unique voice, but I think it really suits the music that he makes, and it's versatile as well. So it's really cool. Really, really cool. So that is, we've got 5 to go now. But that was... Spiderhands came from the fact that when I play guitar, a mate of mine said that I had spider fingers, and spider fingers was kind of like a weird name. Like, I like Spiderhands better than Spiderfingers, so I went with Spiderhands, and then Spiderhands just became my brand name. So it came from my playing guitar and stuff, because I had spider hands when I played. They looked like spooters. The next track is from Leo. Thanks for your request, Leo. I appreciate that. I'm wondering what we'll have next. Hua Chenyu. Awesome. Let's do it. So apparently this starts a bit later in the track, but that's okay. We'll find the timestamp for this. Thank you for putting that timestamp in there, Leo. Really appreciate it. My throat is going to be sore tomorrow. Here we go. Extraordinary, Ordinary Life. Here we go. We'll make it big for this. Completely different vibe, but that's all good. It's kind of a jazzy groove to it, right? That synth is so groovy though, man. So much fun. Bow, bow, bow. I want to know how much beauty could a dreaming butterfly witness in its gentle life. These are some really cool lines in here, you know? Oh, and that walking bass line though, dude. Nice. Glissando on the keys. And great return to the motif there. It's great to have a key solo here. I feel like it could have been elevated by showing the person playing the key solo here. Or is this like, I suppose a visualizer is showing is the focus on this part on the buildings? That was awesome. I assume that's the track. That was Extraordinary Ordinary Life by Hua Chenyu. I think that this track is about someone who is looking at our existences here on this earth and kind of likening them to like a butterfly going through life and like the simplicity of like their experience and looking at how much we potentially overcomplicate ours. And they're saying, you know, like maybe we just need to sort of like overthink it less and just try and sort of like appreciate what we have more. And it's an interesting sort of introspection, potentially in themselves, but also in ourselves as a whole. Because we do like to try and, we do like to, you know, like, we do have a penchant for overcomplicating things as human beings, you know, like the world is complicated, don't get me wrong, but I think it's just a track which is maybe encouraging people to sort of have more of a sense of like groove and like faith in our existences and to not sort of be maybe afraid or fearful of stuff. I'm not sure. Either way, interesting track. I like it. It's kind of quirky. The vocal performance from Hua Chenyu, as per the last time, is upbeat, it's charismatic. I appreciate the vocal technique on display here. We handle ourselves well on our hidden chest voice. The sung parts and the rap parts are equally engaging. It was nice to have an alternate voicing with the rap part in that later stage there, just to sort of like spruce things up a little bit. I feel like for the form factor it had, it was quite effective. I've got no complaints about the way that we sung. We looked like we were having a great time. We emoted well, and it was clearly we had stage presence, and people were sort of enjoying that, or people were clearly enjoying that. The track at 4 minutes, I feel, was nicely fleshed out. There was like a key solo near the end there. I feel like it would have been good to have seen the person playing the key solo on stage. Like you could have had someone either like playing the synthy parts on like a key guitar, or you could have like had someone playing the piano on another part of the stage. But I also understand that the focus is on Hua Chenyu and more so on sort of like the more sort of like scene in the ambience of the concert. So you know, it's instrumentally, I mean, structurally with the different verses and choruses, and then like the solo key section at the end. I think it makes a lot of sense there compositionally. Like the transfers are clean, no issues there. I think, like in regards to the way that we play the different instruments, the keys with the jazzy orientation, there were some extensions there, but typically working with a swing groove, they danced across the track throughout there. It was relatively low key in some parts, but especially when things built up, especially when we had the synths come in with that sort of like alt lead after the vocals had their moment, was really kind of like exciting. It was an exciting, and there's an interesting tone to that synth lead. It was a really cool tone that got stuck in your head, and also the melody did as well. And I enjoyed that. I don't really know what you could have done to really improve upon that as a motif. It was a great alt. And how to describe it? The bass line underneath there worked with the bass and drums worked similar groove structures underneath. No complaints at all about how those were handled. We had a great sort of awareness of the fact that we needed to keep the instrumental performance in general quite tight, despite the changes of vibe between again those synth leads and vocal alts. There was like almost like a double bass, like a very kind of like more sort of like analog bass tone to it that niched better, I think, and more authentically with what the keys and stuff were doing. And the drums with the shuffle there had a great sort of like sense of energy, and almost like kind of a friendly Labrador there. There was some fills and sort of like interesting triplet transitions, but nothing too sort of wild or intense there. It was all about the groove and the continuity and the pace and keeping that sense of like freshness with the energy up. The theme overall kind of seemed like a slice of life kind of event there, almost like the peppiness and the positivity of the piece overall, despite some of the extensions and the harmony, was sort of inferring that we need to sort of like keep our chin up and sort of try and take life a bit less seriously, which I enjoy, or at least take us a bit less seriously ourselves. It was a really palatable, kind of accessible theme that I think a lot of people appreciate and enjoy listening to, and I understand why people were having fun with it. The way that it was produced was fantastic. The studio production, the recording, mixing, and mastering was commercial grade for a live performance. Very impressive. Got no complaints whatsoever about the way things were leveled, how it surrounds you in the headphones there. I think the keys could have been like a little bit louder actually at the end with the solo section, as I didn't get all the notes through, and I think that it would have been good to have that alt with the keys being a bit louder, just for a bit more kind of oomph and emphasis on that. But I understand it was an outro section as well, so that's totally fine. Either way, I think there was enough dynamic range to the piece. It sounded like it wasn't overproduced, and it was nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting was handled. That was another solid effort from Hua Chenyu. Thank you to Leo for putting that track forward, and I look forward to videos of band footage next time. Absolutely, that'd be great. Thank you, Leo. And Jab is eating Vegemite on toast watching this right now. I hope you enjoy the Vegemite. Apparently, this is composed and arranged as well, which is dope. It's great. I love it when musicians write their own stuff. I think it's a universally positive thing. It makes me feel kind of sad when I hear musicians who like rely like they sing, but they rely exclusively on other people to do everything else. Because I feel like you can just get so much enjoyment out of being able to make your own stuff from scratch. It can be really, it can be really fun. I feel like you're just missing out if you're unable to have that sort of sense of independence when it's viable, I suppose. I know in certain situations it's not viable to like make you do everything yourself, but if you can do at least some of it, I think that's really cool. No shade to people who don't, though. It's just my personal take on it is that it can be more fun to make stuff yourself, but everyone is different. So apparently this is Shin Da's piece. Thank you to Shin Da for this next request. It's from Cheong Chung K. Being loved is happiness, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to go to Spotify, though, if I try and find this track. Can you please open in the app? Thank you very much. Or Ronald Ching. Where is it? Down here. It's classic, isn't it? Yeah, this is Being Loved is Happiness by Ronald Ching. Oh, those vocals on the side are gorgeous as well. Great saxophone all here, man. Well done. The cymbal shimmers the strings. Interesting panning there. Oh, those strings are so full sounding, man. Awesome. So that was a track from an ex named Ronald Ching titled Being Loved is Happiness, if I'm not mistaken. So what do we think this track is about? I'm going to assume it's about being loved as happiness. I'm going to tentatively assume that is probably what this is about. Just get that art up there. And I'm glad that you enjoyed the concert, Shinyida. That's fantastic. Thank you for telling me about that. The vocals from Ronald Ching are tremendous. We're very comfortable in our range. This was a ballad format. It was incredibly sensual, and the vocal technique was fantastic. Very extremely comfortable on a head and chest voice. Very easy to listen to. Very smooth, and no complaints whatsoever about the way we communicated. Really well handled, really elegant. The track, you know, like there was we also had some interesting sort of tails at the end of the track. There was some interesting sort of chromatic kind of ideas there that I think were really palatable and really pretty sounding. They did really well, kind of coalescing with the saxophone that part there. I mean, the string part there. I think it was really gorgeous. So we had a clear identity for the singer in the middle of the mix there. We had great presence in the track. It's a song where at 3.5 minutes, it was more of a sort of a verse chorus kind of movement there, with lots of different instruments within it. Like, clearly, you know, like keys, organs, no, keys, piano. There were strings, there were guitars, bass, drums, and saxophones. And they each performed different functions. Clearly, the drums were there for a sense of groove and pace. There were some occasional fills, but they were more sort of to establish a sense of slow dance-ish kind of pace to it. They weren't trying to be sort of too over the top or intense. It was just meant to sort of move things forward when they needed to and to allow space when they weren't. The bass line underneath there, very supportive of the root notes, not much to say there. Well played, just not a lot happening with the bass, but still more meaningful. The guitar parts were picked on different sides. It was like a cleanish guitar tone, but it was really interesting how they went from different sides of the stereo field there. It surrounded you in the headphones. It's really endearing. Really, really great stuff. And I think that that was just interesting from a panning perspective. It didn't necessarily shape the track too much, even though they were kind of like more of a percussive texture. There are extensions there, kind of funky parts there that more and more sort of like points of interest. The keys there that we had there were wonderful. There was a great sort of clean tone to them that was very pretty and shone in the mix alongside some of the string parts, and was just really full sounding and effervescent, and was a nice sort of accompaniment to what Ronald Ching was doing in the track in the whole, regardless of the intensity of different parts. The string section when it came in was really full sounding and was beautiful and was a really welcome texture, and just really sort of found the niche in the frequency spectrum and the arrangement where it just made it sound like larger than life. It surrounded you in the stereo field there. It came up on the sides there as being more of a constant than, say, like the alt pan guitar bits, and it was wonderful there. There was a great weight to it. And like, I also forgot to mention the vocal part. There were these lady singers in the background that were doing bits as well. They were nice sort of like cooler responses or supports to Ronald Ching's parts. They sang really well too. Great sort of softer pad-like thing going on there. It was just the saxophones as a final note, though, that really filled out the composition with their alternate lead voicings. And it was elegant, and it was like it had a really kind of loving, caring texture to it. It was really softly spoken, but easy to listen to, really smooth listening to this. It's really smooth music, and really kind of like articulate as well. When you combine all these different sort of instruments and concepts with the way it was structured, with no filler and a really just solid overall instrumental performance to go alongside the vocals, you have a track which effectively sounds like someone really just kind of like celebrating their own way the concept of being in love or being loved. And they really do sound like they're grateful for that love. It's a majorish tone overall there. There's a lot of warmth coming from the strings and the saxophone parts, which is really easy to listen to. And it seems authentic for what we're discussing here. And I was able to kind of get that feeling without knowing the lyrics or the story behind it, which is really, really, really important, I suppose, as a non-native speaker. The studio recording, mixing, and mastering is commercial grade. No complaints at all about like how it's been mixed and produced. I like the dynamic range to the vocals, the fact that it wasn't the same loudness all the time, and you had to listen into it and really kind of like absorb it the best you could. I think that was quite effective. And it's just as a final comment, and I think that things nicely leveled in the stereo frequency spectrum, music surrounded you, and the headphones, especially when the string parts came in and really filled it in there. And it was nice to level without pumping, bass compression limiting is handled. Basically commercial grade. Thank you to Chenyu for putting this track forward. I'm glad that you enjoyed the concert, and I enjoyed listening to the song from Ronald Ching titled Being Loved is Happiness. So that's awesome. And have I listened to any Dominic Fikes live performances, specifically Baby Doll or Mama's Boy? I have not. I have not listened to them before, but I'd be keen to listen to some of that sometime, either in these requests or if I remember in my off time. But that was Chenyu Da's pick. We have 3 more to go today. 3 more tracks. We're getting through our queue. Thank you for your requests so far. I didn't mean to sound like I was just shocked. It's not often I like look at the queue and then suddenly there's like 6 requests in there that have popped up. I'm grateful for it. I appreciate it. It's good that you all feel comfortable putting tracks through for like review purposes and stuff like that. This next request though is from Leo. I am banking on this potentially being Hua Chenyu. That's cool. That's totally fine. So this is apparently 7 personalities from Leo. 7 personalities by Hua Chenyu Mask Concert 2023. The next song I highly recommend listening to the last part. Also, maybe you can start a minute and a half for this one. I will do so. Yeah, it's just keeping to that 5 minutes, man. It's just making sure we kind of have that in there. Just keeps things nice and chill. But let's do it, Leo. Let's go. So a minute and a half in. Ooh. It's incredibly tense automatically, right? Is that the Mongolian throat singing there? Oh, the Sanskrit mantra. This is probably one of my favorite Hua Chenyu tracks, to be fair. Great vocal technique, phenomenal there. Fantastic fry. Almost like a flute, you know? But that kind of wistful lead guitar tone on top is really interesting. Oh, the guitars are beautiful, man. Great parallel there. Phenomenal build. It's heavy as hell, man. Interesting position of that sweet picky stuff on the left side. Okay, I've just had my lights decide that they want to go to a different mode. Here we go. Awesome. Just saving that for a minute. That's awesome. That was 7 personalities from Hua Chenyu the Mask Concert 2023. So what is this track about? I think it is discussing potentially all the different personalities we have, how they come together, how they integrate in that sense of spirituality. Maybe the exploration of our humanity through that, sort of like self-realization and stuff. I'm not sure. I'd need more time with it. Honestly, for me, the spectacle of the actual performance itself, I would need to know more about what they were talking about in order to sort of feel confident sort of discussing it further. I don't know a lot about that part of that stuff. But I think that the vocals were interesting. They were interesting. We did a phenomenal job of carrying ourselves throughout the performance. Really comfortable. I mean, like, these are similar comments I've made about Hua Chenyu across this live stream. Clearly, solid vocalist, stage presence, etc. Really comfortable in front of the mic. Lots of interesting vocal melodies and harmonies. I thought the highlights for me personally for this track, in addition to previous statements I made, are that there was like the throat sing or like the bass growling kind of stuff, or the chanting that was going on in certain elements there. It was just a great sort of refreshing sort of change in the low section that surrounded you in the headphones and was just really cool sounding. It was kind of ominous, but it was also kind of weirdly peaceful at the same time. The 7 stages of depression, right? Yeah, I wasn't necessarily sure about that from what I read, but I feel like if I'd had like the whole track, and I'd probably have that as well. So that I appreciate that, Leo. I appreciate that there. Thank you. The crying out there, the vocal fry, in addition to those interesting chants on the sides of the crowds, was really phenomenal there. Just the moments where it build and go into that kind of grittier texture just shows phenomenal vocal technique, and we captivated the audience with that. Really well handled there, thoroughly enrapturing. The vocal melodies that we chose there as well made sense with the choices there. Again, a lot of the comments are similar to previous tracks because they can clearly sing and they're very kind of competent in that regard, and they know how to sell a track and a vibe and a performance. The track itself, a lot of it was based on the guitar, guitars, bass, and drums there, with interesting sort of movements between sort of softer string parts there. And then you also would have the heavier elements there with some double kick there, exploration of the cymbals and snares and stuff, but also like chugged kind of distorted rhythm parts, and then even some sweeping on the leads later on there for a bit of extra kind of intensity. When we went away from necessarily telling the story, and we're more sort of expressing just the furor or the intensity of our raw emotion, we were letting ourselves go. The music did the talking for us and elicited that. It was a really tight instrumental performance overall, but go back a little bit and just kind of swipe through. Yeah, there was some interesting sort of wistful lead lines as well that happened throughout the piece there, where in parts we had like a da-dum, ba-dum over the top of the chanting bits there, which were a nice mid-range companion to the lower range chanting, and then the vocals that were going on there. The whistling as well. The whistling that they were doing as well, almost like imitating a flute, that was really cool on top of the chanting. Nearly forgot that. That was really dope. So we effortlessly went into that. So like the vocal points for this again were the guitar, bass, drums, and it was more sort of, there were verse and chorus parts, but it was also kind of through composed in the sense that at the later stages, this outro just went into the super heavy section there. Lots of fun things going on. I feel like you could have potentially have had the lead guitar a bit louder in the mix on the left side, but I also understand that Hua Chenyu was like the focal point within it. I do appreciate they had the band more visible in that front. They could have potentially focused on the person playing the lead guitar part of that part in order to sort of like show them in the mix that they were doing something where it kind of took the focus, but that's totally fine. Again, it's more about the aesthetic. It's Hua Chenyu's concert, totally fine. It's a solid, real well-written track that I think is sort of mystical sounding and makes sense in regards to the subject matter with the reverb layers there, the mistiness of those, the vocal choices being a bit more sort of like tribal and kind of chanting and stuff, with the pan flutes making it seem a little more sort of exotic and kind of like spiritual. And it's just, again, like the heaviness of that raw emotion at the end is, if that is about depression, it's just like the realization of all that coming to pass. And yeah, the theme makes sense. That minor leaning there and the heavier elements there, that with that aggression, with the double kicks and stuff, and the softness there, trying to sort of be a bit more sort of like pragmatic about it and practical, and trying to sort of like think through things in a healthier way, just inevitably ending with that anger. It's a really interesting track there with no filler at all, smooth transitions between, and engaging throughout. The studio recording, mixing, mastering is commercial grade. The live mixing and everything like that is really well handled. I've got no complaints about it whatsoever. Yeah, I find myself repeating comments about musicians in regards to certain elements, so I have to try and find new things. Otherwise, I'm just, I feel like it just starts to feel like it may start to seem like I'm phoning it in when I'm not. It's just they're consistent, and I suppose that's the greatest compliment of all, is that they're really consistent with their stuff. So thank you to Leo for sending through this track from an ex named Hua Chenyu, titled 7 Personalities. It's a really interesting thing to sort of like think over and consider, and I'm really impressed with what I've been sent through from Hua Chenyu today. Got JAB next, who loved the throw bass, which was awesome. It's such highly textured music. There's so much going on in some of these tracks. It's difficult to really like kind of get them all down. You just got to try your best, You're welcome. It's we got another track from JAB here. We're gonna check this one out. It's titled Sunburn by JAB. So let's go. Is it going to play? There we are. This is 1.5 minutes. That's short. I like the resonance of the bass in this. I thought it was quite nice. I like that. I was trying to catch it before it ended. I like that a lot, Jab. This was JAB with Sunburn. It's beautiful, man. Really gorgeous song. Let's talk about this track. So I was listening to this and I understood intently what the track was about. I think it's about someone trying to get close to another, and they're trying to sort of like understand that person better and establish a sense of kinsmanship. But it's also very difficult because that person is got some, they're so full of fire that it's like burning them to be near them. And you're just trying to sort of like let them know, hey, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. But it's just very difficult. You can hear that pain. You can feel it. And it's actually causing you pain trying to connect with that person. So I think that's what this track is about. I think it's incredibly authentic sounding. The vocal performance, it suits the guitar and bass and the drums really neatly. Really well handled. I liked the way that we approached things in regards to just simply sing in a range that we were comfortable with. Similarly to the previous track there, I could hear the words clearly in this one, and it's a really kind way of singing. It's not forceful. it's got that, again, that kind of style, that kind of rockish, kind of early 90s kind of style to it, where there's a bit of like low to and a bit of grit, but like not too much. It's like authentic, and it seems like you really care about the person you're singing about. And that's what you need with a track like this when you're singing lyrics that are just sort of endearing. And it just suits the rest of the track. But yeah, solid vocal technique, great use of melodies. Yeah, I think we double tracked the vocals as well for a bit of exercise there, which is fantastic. And yeah, I've got nothing but love for the way that we told that story in an ABA kind of thing with chorus versus chorus. Very simple, short form factor, easy to digest. Wasn't overcomplicating anything. The strummed acoustic guitar part sounded very kind of earnest and wholesome. The chord choices there were fantastic. There was a great sort of shimmer to the guitars there. The strum parts just sounded like you were someone like sitting on a bed with the other person, kind of singing the song to them. It was double tracked, so it was nice and wide in a stereo field, and the music surrounded you. But also the bass line underneath was resonant, but in a way that filled in that lower part of the frequency spectrum, made it sound like it was actually like whole. The drums are relatively subtle in this, and I think that's a smart move. I think that if you had made the drums too sort of too strong in this, it would have seemed like you were trying to sort of force the person to do it. I like the smoothness of it. Ultimately, it's a track where it focuses on the kind of the chords, the harmony it's trying to communicate, while having a subtle groove to keep moving you forward that is absent in parts where you want the chords to hold, and the vocals are the main focal lead. And that's all you really need within this. It's short enough that you don't need to do more with it. I think if you'd made this track longer or tried to add more to the story, it would have been like more than you'd needed. We just chose a great sort of length for it. The theme overall sounds like you're feeling sad for this person, and it's kind of bittersweet. You want to connect to them, but you can't. But it's not too dark and dire either. Almost like it's the glow of like the potential of happiness, but not being able to get there. And it's a beautiful sounding song, and I've said that multiple times. So I'm not gonna kind of go. I think it's just the studio recording, mixing, and mastering is I like what's been done with this one. Everything is leveled quite neatly there. There's dynamic range to it. Vocals are nice and present in the mix. Music surrounds you in the headphones, and it's nice and loud without pumping, so the bus compression and limiting is handled. I mean, it's just basically a really well. It's a great track. This is probably my favorite one so far, Sunburn, and I wish you the best of luck with it. It's really, really good tunes. Really well handled. And you're welcome. I'm glad that I got the meaning of it. I appreciate that. Thank you for letting me know. That's cool. I think honestly the future music in a certain way is tracks like this. I don't think that all songs even need to be 3 minutes anymore. If you can get your point across in 2, I think it could be incredibly effective. And I realize that doesn't suit all situations. There's often times where, like, for instance, with Hua Chenyu stuff, where, like, it does suit a longer form factor, but that's because there's, like, arguably there are bigger topics that need more elaboration and extrication, and you need to sort of, like, move up to certain things and go on those kind of roller coaster rides. But you know, short or long, I feel like everyone we reviewed here will be able to handle it. And there's been a lot of really good tracks today. I really enjoyed this live stream. I don't know if I'll do a live stream tomorrow because my throat's feeling kind of scuffed at the moment, and I need to be careful with it. It could just be I'm coming down with something, I'm not sure. But either way, there is one more track today. Thank you to JB or Jab for your previous one. This last track for today is from Shin Yi Da. Thanks for your request. This is a track from an act named The Crane, titled Disease. So that's cool. The last one for today. I like the whistle. Oh, damn. Whoa. What a turn, man.
Some fantasy. Where the fuck is this? Google set your lonely. Why am I inside of this lucid dream now?
Great singer.
Thought I was just cling for this beat. I guess I'm addicted to being seen. I really need a charge, I really need a charge.
Great call and response between the sides to center.
What should I do if something happens? Ooh, and I can't record it now. How do I write down all the thoughts? 5 minutes in, they're almost gone. The toxins really hurting me. 난 실제 뻔한지 the night overtakes my body like a new disease. I felt peace. 나도 팅샤나샤이. It's actually not that bad at all. I'ma hop on a train, heading this way. Now my eyes can't see, let my soul vacate. I'ma take a little peep, but no LSD like DPNG. We all gotta pay for all the addiction, to recognize what is worthy of saving, to apologize to the ways we live in. I need to meditate more than medication. But after all these, I still wonder, do you even like this song? 'Cause I'm no saint, I'm just a human, need the validation.
Oh, fantastic distortion there. Great on sides.
Sometimes I need a faster than lightning. I think the world is spinning around me. I need to leave the thoughts behind me. I had to stop before I go crazy. The night overtakes my body like a new disease. I found peace, found peace. It's actually not that bad at all.
I mean, like, it's easy to absorb this track and to kind of feel it out. Partly because of the panning of the instruments in the mix and how they're separated. Oh, we're glittering, man. It's fantastic. Yeah, tremendous. So that was from The Crane, titled Disease. I am going to sort of try and figure this out. I got parts of the lyrics through this. Part of that was because I was just grooving to this music and just enjoying my time with it. But I did hear some of the lyrics because I know they were in English. My understanding of this track from The Crane, titled Disease, is that it's about someone who is... I'm wondering if it's a disease as in like they're like sort of obsessed with someone and they're realizing that they're kind of sick because of that sort of like connection they have with that person. But then they're kind of realizing actually maybe they don't mind being sick with that disease of that person, like that they're obsessed with them, that infatuation, because it doesn't feel so bad at all. They're kind of trying to figure out their position with that. I mean, either way, it's cool. I would probably need another time through the tracks to sort of really feel it out. But either way, I think it's an interesting story, and I appreciate the fact that it is in English to sort of be able to sort of absorb it like that. Even though I by no means think that all music should be in English just to suit my needs. It's a song where the vocals from The Crane are fantastic. There's like an R&B-ish flow to it. There's some rapped elements there. I like how the vocals go from the center to the sides and they call and respond with each other. I think that's pretty neat. And I also appreciate the quality vocal technique, comfortable in the head and chest and voice, and they navigate quite a complicated arrangement harmonically with all these different instruments and different parts in a way that's very palatable and very colorful, without like kind of straying too far away from the core motifs of the track or the percussion or anything like that. They have their voice and presence within the piece without sort of overcomplicating it. Very easy to listen to and very entertaining in a way that's not too over the top. It's a song. The track at 4 minutes 23 is, well, it's a longer track, but I think there's enough going on instrumentally to be able to sort of like keep things going and keep it engaging and throughout. It's a song where we have some interesting sort of like bass and drum and guitar and key parts and synths and like other elements there, as well as whistling and stuff like that, and some sort of funky pads and all sorts of like little layers that do not necessarily like little bits individually and sort of maintain. There are lots of like things change position in the stereo field. Like there have been a few songs today, such as from tracks with Hua Chenyu and others, where like things are very deliberate on the left or the right side. And I enjoy that a lot, as well as with I think Kaiwa and stuff as well, where we switch stuff up into headphones to kind of make it more interesting and easy to understand what different musicians are doing. And I think there's a time and place for that where it just is it could be effective, especially when compositions are so busy. Like again, you have that more sort of formal structure of the verses and the choruses and the rap like parts and everything, but then like you also have a situation where there are peppy, complicated lines on the keys there that explore the melodies and chord progressions well. And by themselves, they could be quite a lot, but because you've split stuff, it's easy to kind of absorb. You have more subtle elements like the bass, but even the bass isn't that subtle. There's a bit of attack to it, and it does have a bit of kind of funk to it. And it does move well with the drums there, with the chord no groove throughout the chord, without total of the time. A lot of the rhythm is carried across the entirety of the instruments with how they sort of unify with each other rhythmically, or how they sort of have their own identities, whether they are in the center or the other sides of the stereo field. But like obviously there's like not all the time. I understand there's parts where things are quieter. You have the vocals by themselves there to sort of have that as a focal point. There is development compositionally throughout. It's not all the same loudness, and part of why that works is because you have a musician that is aware again of the busyness of it and not overloading the listener. And I enjoy that. It's just having that sort of dynamic range by taking layers away and then putting them back on means you don't have to do any sort of like weird kind of adverse stuff of gluing at the end. But it's like we also know where to like niche the bass parts so that they fit in the mix without being too overwhelming. The drum parts, again, with the chord note sort of focus on the kicks and snares and some of the offbeat accents for like the open hi-hats, just with the transfers, they're subtle, but they're effective. And there's emptiness when we need it, and it gets fuller, or trade-offs between certain elements when we know we've hit the ceiling of it. It's a piece where, as colorful as it is, it's almost like there's an intrinsic sadness to it, but it's like extended. So like you've got like minor sevenths and stuff like that, which kind of add a more sort of chill, kind of groovy sadness to the piece there, where like we're not necessarily completely down in the dumps about it, which is a smart shift. I think that if you've been too sort of blunt either way on the majors versus minors of this track, it would have been a bit too on the nose there. But just the way that you have the vocals do the thing in the center of the mix. They have their own sort of like identity. You niche it with everything else underneath and on the sides. And then you allow the last section to have like a lead section on the right there with a sort of a core melody there that is doing its own thing and you're appreciating and it's comfortable in its range. Then the other side of the stereo field comes in and you have an even higher melody there. There's development instrumentally throughout the end. There is absolutely no filler. And the theme is enthralling, but not in a way where it's like super exciting or anything like that. It just kind of knows which boxes to tick and which sort of like levers to press in order to keep you listening the whole way throughout. And like it's things like, again, the guitar with like the alternate picked kind of strum parts there to add a sort of a pseudo 16th to it on the sides. The filtering and modulation of certain elements there to kind of have it like a wah tone to it, to kind of like oscillate and change the affectation of its sort of like expression in the mix. Little changes within each one, post-production or performatively, that are effective. The studio production is commercial grade though. Things surround you in the stereo field. They're in different positions. There's great filtering there, great presentation of everything without being overproduced. Things are nicely balanced within the stereo field, and as well as the frequency spectrum with no resonant frequencies, with things being really well leveled. And there's dynamic range to this. Things are not the same loudness all the time. It was nice and loud without pumping to the bus compression. Limiting was handled, and the vocals were not overproduced. The crane can just sing. And that was the track from Shen Da from The Crane, titled Disease. A really solid piece of music. I don't know if I listened to The Crane before, but I did enjoy my time with him. More importantly, though, Apparently, Le Pianist loves the vibe of the song. I did too. But it is conclusion time. Today, we've reviewed a lot of different songs from Konstantin Derekas, Dinnerhay, Jacob, Kai Wern, JB, Leo, and Shinyi Da. Thank you for all of your requests. I genuinely enjoyed my time reviewing all of these tracks, as well as talking to you all today. It was good to have conversations, actual conversations with people. Because it can be a bit lonely when you're just sitting here reviewing stuff. Being able to chat about stuff is good. Hopefully you guys have a fantastic day. Again, I don't know if we'll be back tomorrow, but I'll be back hopefully the day after that if I'm not. Stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support all your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you all in the next video or live stream, whatever else suits. Have a fantastic day. Links are down here for the Discord and the YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff, and Patreon if you want custom monthly music reviews. And yeah, Spiderhands out. 3, 2, 1.